We're incredibly pleased to have Dave Cowens here. You're kicking off our Legends with Leyden series. Congratulations. It is great to have you here. I mean, you fit the bill. You know, the 18 hangs up there and everyone remembers what you did here in town, but you're also still very involved in Boston, and you're involved with the kids, and you got your camp going on right now. Why is that important to you?
Well, I've been doing it since 1972, so that's, you know, we just have people that are working now that went to the camp, and I mean, it's like 7 degrees of separation from the basketball camp. Everywhere you go, you meet somebody. Just today, somebody said, yeah, we went to your camp in 1986, and he remembered the coach, and it's just one of the things that stick with young people when they go away, like they used to with our camp. They would go away for a week, sometimes for the first time, so it leaves an indelible mark on their memories.
What I've heard, though, is that this year specifically has got quite an international flair to it, right? You got a bunch of people from all over the world?
Yeah, probably. We'll have total maybe 30 kids will come from China. We have a good group from Italy, Milan, Switzerland. First time we've ever had someone from Switzerland. And so we've been sort of an international camp for many teams and coaches from abroad for a long time, probably 35 years or so. They started coming over because Boston is such a great place to visit in the summertime. And so the parents would come over, bring the kids. Well, they're going to be 3 or 4 weeks. Kids only going to take so much of a museum or a duck walk or something like that. They try to get them in a basketball camp.
All right, well, one of my goals with this series is to get guys like Dave to tell some stories, because that's why we love the old legends, because they got great stories. And you're associated with such a historic franchise.
Yes.
Let's go right back to when it started, because, you know, it was Bill Russell himself that wanted you to be a part of this franchise and recommended you to the franchise for them to draft in 1970. What were your interactions coming out of Florida State, coming to Boston in 1970 with Bill Russell? And you must have had immense respect for him.
I have a lot of respect for him because actually when I was in college, we used to play one-on-one before every practice. And I was Bill Russell because he was left-handed, kind of a thing. And I liked the Celtics, one of the only teams you really saw on TV back then, you know. So, he didn't really, that I know, recommend me other than when they had already drafted me and I was down at Red Auerbach's basketball camp playing, and they're trying to figure out, Heinsohn and him and everybody, is this kid going to be a center or forward? What should we do? That's when Russell said, look, you know, don't tell this kid he can't do anything. Just let him go. He'll be fine. And that was kind of his recommendation.
So you knew that playing for the Celtics meant that you'd most likely be playing for championships sooner rather than later. And you did win 2 championships. Mm-hmm. And given this platform, I want to get those brainwaves going a little bit. Have you talk about those 2 championship teams?
Okay.
Specifically the championship series. Because that first one that you were a part of in '74, you go up against the Bucks and you go up against Lou Alcindor. And from what I know of that series, based on what I read, you had to make a major alteration right in the middle of that series because you realized that what you could do may not necessarily work 100% effectively against what Kareem could do defensively. Give me your recollection of what that series was all about.
It did, well, it was kind of like that, but we didn't make that change until the 7th game out there. So we played it straight with me guarding Jabbar. Back then, that's kind of what everybody did. You know, somebody guarded Jerry West straight up, somebody guarded Elgin Baylor, somebody guarded this guy, and I had the centers. And there wasn't a lot of double teaming because there wasn't a 3-point play and things didn't get spread out, so it wasn't that efficient. So we didn't use that ploy until the very 7th game. So for the first 4 years in the 6 games of the playoffs, you know, it was me against Jabbar, and we were doing okay. I mean, it was 3-3 at the time. It wasn't like what we were doing wasn't working, but it really made them think. It was a good situation the way it turned out because it surprised them. And because they couldn't get the ball to Jabbar in enough time to utilize the clock, the shot clock, it put them in a little bit of a panic, and we got out to a lead and we were able to keep that lead. And so it helped in the beginning of that game.
But you also had the ability to go outside, which I suppose would be a challenge for him, as athletic as he was, to get outside and guard a guy like you who could probably hit it from 15, 18 feet out.
Well, Tom Heinsohn used some strategy when I developed a decent outside shot and I had quickness and I could put the ball on the floor, a couple dribbles. You know, that the whole thing was, because the centers were guarding me, then just like I had a problem inside with some guys. they had problems outside. And it wasn't just Jabbar, it was Chamberlain and Lanier and Walton and anybody else who was kind of a taller guy and not as fleet of foot. So, I'd get an awful lot of wide open looks, from that elbow area. And so he employed some offenses that they hadn't used in the Red Auerbach days and the Russell days to take advantage of that skill set.
So Tommy being the coach, we know Tommy more as a commentator in my generation, but that's pretty gutsy before a Game 7 to make a change like that. Is that indicative of what he was like on the bench?
We made the change and never practiced it. I mean, that change was made at the end of the double overtime loss on Friday night, and then we played on in the afternoon on Sunday out there, so there was travel involved. We didn't even have a shoot around or anything. We just talked about it. And, a team that's together as long as we had been together with Silas and Havlicek and JoJo White and Chaney and all those guys that, and with that experience, we didn't have to practice, so we knew what to do.
All right, let's fast forward 2 years, 1976, one of the greatest NBA Finals ever played, including one of the greatest games ever played when you go up against the Suns, triple overtime, such craziness throughout the overtime series. I mean, do you pinch yourself sometimes? You were part of that?
I was glad I was in it. I'm glad we won. Because it's been tough to be on the losing end of that one. We had 3 overtimes and all kind of great heroes in the game from guys you wouldn't even know about, so Glenn McDonald came in and did a heck of a job for us to help us win.
So you win the triple overtime game, and I know that all the Suns players were angry, they were motivated, and they really thought that they were going to go home and win that game to force a Game 7. And you didn't let it happen. What's the key to taking control in that situation?
You really don't know. You can't plan anything out in pro sports. I mean, it's just the way things happen. People make decisions. They, make alterations in their heads, split decisions. And, we just played a better game out there. I think we were motivated to end it, and they were motivated to keep it going. And we had already played so many minutes against one another. It wasn't any surprises who was going to have a better game, and we prevailed.
So 2 titles is what you get to hang your hat on.
I don't just hang my hat on title. To me, it's all about the process. After we won against the Bucks, Bob Ryan said something to me. I said, I'm sorry that it's over. The actual joy is in playing against these great players and being in that moment. Once it's over, you just think back on it. And I'm not a big one to take a trophy and kiss it and all that stuff, because that's just one of the things that comes along with the effort. The joy is in the doing.
It is your legacy, though. The fact that you were part of this franchise, a franchise that's won so many times, and you
my
were such
legacy is that I fell down with the best of them. I could fall down, and people remember diving on the floor and the way that I played. That's really, I think, with most people, the legacy.
Do you look back on, how would you look back on your time with Boston and the fact that you did contribute in the way you did?
Well, I had a great time. I hope the people that watched us saw that we really enjoyed ourselves as a group. We were pretty good for a stretch of 5 or 6 years there. We had a chance to win a championship, and that's all you want. You never know if it's actually going to happen. There are no guarantees, but we had a chance, and I think we stimulated the Boston crowd about basketball a little bit. The attendance rose somewhat, and then when Larry Bird came, it went to the top. So it was kind of precursor to him and how the game sort of evolved.
All right, let's wrap it up with this. We know Dave Cowens the player, Dave Cowens the coach, Dave Cowens the writer, Dave Cowens the blogger. Big Red Factors. You can find it at davecowens.sportsblog.com. What's that all about? I particularly liked your take on the NBA Finals this year, the incredible shrinking NBA, right?
Well, I just couldn't understand why Cleveland benched Moscow. I mean, he was having a heck of a series, and they didn't have anybody really to deal with him, and he went small. Well, you're not going to be as good as Golden State is going small, because that's the way they played all year. So I thought that, I didn't understand why we had to take the big man out just because of the style of play. So that sort of, I actually went to bed, and I got up and went back to bed, and I started thinking about it, and that's where the germ of the idea began. But I've been talking about, since they put the three-point play in, that for me as a big guy, degree of difficulty to sit there and shoot something from 23 feet with nobody guarding you is not as difficult as me shooting a hook shot over Chamberlain or Jabbar or somebody like that. So I thought it was just spread everything out. And so the game has changed really, and it's morphed into, it's more important to get a 22-foot shot from the corner than it is to get a layup. You know what I mean? So instead of you attack the basket for one purpose, to throw it to somebody out there to get that three-point shot. You know, that last game, both teams combined 19 for 61 from the three-point line. That's not very good shooting. That's a lot of misses. Curry was 2 for 11. Had a great game. But I mean, he's a great player and all, but it's just getting into, now the game is so much different because everything's off the dribble. Before it was pass the ball, make cuts, give it a guy, he goes up and shoot. No, we didn't really like a lot of dribbling because they're more turnovers when you dribble a lot.
So the game's changed. Wrapping up with this. Give me 20 seconds on the current state of the Celtics. What do you think of the team?
We're just constantly in a search for somebody that they can tie everything around, build around. You know, they had it with Russell for so many years. They had it with Bird and McHale and those guys for so many years. With us, it was Havlicek and myself and JoJo. So they're looking for that one guy, like when they got Garnett and Pierce was there. Boy, that fit, and then they put Ray out. But they need that one key piece to really grow from. It's just what you need to win a championship.
You tipped us off the right way.
All right, then.
Thanks a lot. Dave
Enjoyed it.
Cowens.
Yes.
All right.